Hi everyone and welcome. I'm Gabrielle and owner of My Lovey, and welcome to my channel. This is where we talk and learn all about crafts, whether they're sewing, painting, baking, jam making, or more. So if you're eager to explore more of these engaging videos, don't forget to subscribe below. Today we're going to be discussing muffin making, so let's dive in. Most muffin recipes are basically the same. It's just the add-ins you have. It usually includes a flour, sugar, a chemical leavener. Don't freak out. A chemical leavener is usually either a baking powder or baking soda. Salt. I know people don't like to put salt in there, but you don't taste it, but it makes a big difference if you don't add it. It really pretty much makes your product taste kind of blah. The liquid ingredients usually consist of eggs, butter, or oil, either one, depending on your recipe you're using, works fine. Buttermilk or regular milk, it all depends on your recipe, and maybe some flavorings like vanilla. This is the basic recipe that most of your muffins consist of. After that, it's usually your add-ins, whether you're adding berries, chocolates, jimmies, any kind of thing, nuts in your muffin mix. But that is the basic recipe, what it mostly consists of. Okay, so let's get started. I like to start my oven to preheat because it usually takes about 10 to 15 minutes. And then by the time you get all the muffins in the pan and all prepped and ready to go, your oven usually is by temperature by then. So I also like to prep up my muffin tins. And I like to use these, I call them tulip style muffin liners. They're really good, especially if you have muffins that are going to get a little bit higher, mostly so they don't stick on the pan itself, but I also think they just look prettier. But just your regular standard muffin liners will be perfectly fine. You don't have to grease them. You don't have to do anything. So that is all ready to go. So now we'll get started. So the first thing you want to do in this bowl is my dry ingredients, of which I've added the flour, the sugar, the salt, don't forget to add salt, and the baking powder. And you're going to mix it well. I do like to use my whisk here, and you're pretty much going to mix it up really well in here just to get it all incorporated in there. In my other, I have like a little bowl kind of measuring cup here. And here I have my milk, my oil. If you're using butter that's melted, you can do that too. And your eggs, and you would have your vanilla in there. So that you'll want to mix up also. And I'll just add my vanilla. I usually like to add a little splash of vanilla in there. Just adds a little bit of flavoring in there, but you don't really have to have a lot. And I'm just going to mix it up really, really well. The thing I also like to do before I add my liquid ingredients to my dry is if I'm doing like a fruit or any kind of mixings, like nuts or chocolates or berries or anything, I do like to add them in before I add the liquid, just so I don't have to mix it so much and develop that gluten. So I'm going to add my blueberries in there, and they were kept in my freezer just to keep them cold, because remember, I like to keep everything cold. So here's my blueberries in there. And like I said, I have the recipe for this in the blog post that is posted in the description below. So you'll have everything in there so you can follow along yourself. And again, I just want to take them and coat them in there. So you just pretty much just lightly coating it in here. Then I'm going to add my liquid in here, and I like to make sure it's really just mixed up well. And I'm just going to plop it all in there and take that to the side. And we're just going to slowly mix it in. And like I said, you don't want to be like going, kind of thing. You're just gently in there. You just want to moisten everything. It's okay if you have a little bit of flour in there. It's totally fine. The key is you really don't want to overmix. And especially if you're adding berries, you don't want to break them up too much. And you can see it's a kind of a shaggy dough. And that's all there is to it. As you can see, that was really, really quick. So then what I usually like to do, like I said, I have my muffin pan already prepared with my liners in there. And I like to use a ice cream scoop, measuring scoop, only because then they're pretty much even and they cook the same time because you don't have one has more than the other. And I just scoop them in there. And a lot of times, you know, I make really large ones. So a lot of times a recipe that says it's going to be, you know, for like 12 or 8 or whatever it is, it usually winds up being a little bit less when I do them. So this one looks like, I'll just keep plopping them in there. And it looks like we will get 6 out of this recipe. And in there. And then I'm just going to get my spatula just to squeak out all those little yummy bits along the side here. So we can get that one last one in there. Also, a lot of times if you're putting, after you get done, sometimes you like to have like a strudel topping or just maybe some sanding sugar. You can put that on afterwards. And we're going to put some sanding sugar on this batch right here. And we'll just get that last in there. There we go. We have them all in there. And now we're just going to add, I'm going to add my sanding sugar in here so we can have a little bit of extra crunch on the top. But you don't have to, you can use regular sugar too. I mean, I just like the little coarse kind that just kind of adds that little crunch. They don't dissolve when you're baking, so it still has that extra crunch, but it's totally up to you. You don't have to put that in there. Okay, and that is all there is to it. Now we're just going to pop this in the oven. Follow your recipe. This particular one is 400 degrees, and then just we'll come on the other side and see what these yummies look like. Well, they finally did come out of the oven, and don't they just look divine? I've included the recipe in my description below, which will bring you to my blog post that has all the complete written instructions for you to follow along with this video. But it's so simple to do, and you can always bake like a pro.